Thanks for clicking on to otherraces.com. We're looking ahead now to the Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival, 3 miles the distance. So horses who definitely stay the trip needed for this Novices contest. And let's have a look at some of the key contenders then for the Albert Bartlett. Boston Bob's in there for William Mullins. Brindisi Breeze for Lucinda Russell. John Ferguson's got Cotton Mill entered. Ipsos de Burley for Noel Mead. Gordon Elliott's got Mount Ben Bulben. Rocky Creek for Paul Nicholls, and Charles Burns with Sea of Thunder. Favourite for the Albert Bartlett is Boston Bob at 3-1. Mount Ben Bulben's at 5. 6-1 for Rocky Creek. 7-1 for Sea of Thunder. It's 8-1 and bigger the remainder. And looking back to December, we can see the top two in the market in action.
Last, Mount Ben Bulben, Boston Bob on the inside, Jetson and Ipsos de Burley down now to the final flight, and Boston Bob rallying strongly now on the inside as they come down towards the final flight. It's Boston Bob at the last in the lead from Mount Ben Bulben and Ipsos de Burley, and on the climb up towards the finish, it's Boston Bob and Ruby Walsh going to score an opening double in the big hurdle races. For Boston Bob is going to score his second victory here at Navan. Boston Bob from Mount Ben Bulben, Ipsos de Burley and Jetson.
So there was Boston Bob winning back in December. We'll come back to Boston Bob very shortly, but first of all, Andy, let's have a look at the second and third horses there. Mount Ben Bulben in second place for Gordon Elliott. He looks as though he's a horse who's going to improve for the step up to 3 miles.
Yeah, probably, but you would have to have concerns about the way he jumped right there, wouldn't you? Certainly, Cheltenham, you're on the turn a long way. He jumped right there. That may have simply have been because he was forced to make his own running. Prior to that race, he was a very hyped horse, wasn't he? And a massive reputation. Still has got that reputation. Clearly, the money for him, the connections still fancy their chances.
Well, it's won 2 of his 4 starts, including the Monksfield Hurdle. Gordon Elliott thinks a lot of him, but Noel Mead thinks quite a lot of the third horse as well. This is Ipsos de Burley, and we can also see him in winning form. This was at Punchestown back in the beginning of January, and he's a horse who's got some good form to his name, but maybe just looks to be below top class.
Yeah, and I can't see any reason why you would be in a hurry to back this horse to reverse placings with Boston Bob, can you?
No, not at all. Given he's been beaten fair and square by him, Boston Bob's progressed again. It's hard to see why, or if I find any reason apart from maybe a difference in track or a difference in ground conditions. But if anything, Boston Bob, we think, could improve for the 3 miles around Cheltenham. Let's have a look. This is maybe the most crucial bit of form for this race. Boston Bob in winning form at the end of January at Leopardstown, where he's given weight and a beating to some really good horses.
He has, and first of all, the horse in third place there, Make Your Mark, he would improve on better ground, I would imagine. Excuse me, I would imagine he'll go for the 2.5 mile race. The horse in, I think, came 5th that day, Sea of Thunder, absolutely will improve for better ground, proven course and distance form on good ground, apart from the last fight, fall, of course. But we know he'll travel well. So I think Boston Bob, easily the strongest contender for this race. The horse that I would give a chance to would be Sea of Thunder, I think, of the horses that have been beaten by him. OK, so Sea of Thunder, of those in behind Boston Bob, I think Boston Bob, a massive contender for William Mullins, and the reputation and the vibes about Boston Bob, all very positive. Let's have a look, though, at some of the British contenders for this. We can have a look at a race at Doncaster and see Rocky Creek in action here for Paul Nicholls. And this horse really, compared to some of the Irish horses, quite lightly raced and unexposed. Yeah, and you're always going to get better ground at Doncaster, which I think augurs well for his chances of acting on the ground at Cheltenham. Interesting to hear connections say they wouldn't want the ground too fast for this horse. That would be a concern because the race comes on Friday. Historically, that will tend to be the faster ground on the Friday, so that would be a concern. But it would also be a concern for the Irish contenders, of course. If this race had been on the Tuesday, it'd be a lot stronger on 1 or 2 of these, whereas Friday you could have incredibly quick ground. Rocky Creek have a chance. Sea of Thunder would be my number 1. What about you? Well, I think that the horse there, I think he certainly suits the profile of the race. Point-to-point winner, second extra. The horse who beat him that day has gone on to win since. But I just don't think a beating of Gullin Bursty is good enough to win a top-level race at the festival. So he's going to have to improve off the back of those 2 runs. And he might well improve, but, we're talking about the difference between a selection and a bet, perhaps. And, you want proven in the book for a bet. I would say Sea of Thunder's form was reasonably enough to see him finishing the first 3. To me, Boston Bob is the strongest contender for this race.
Yep, I'm completely with you. Boston Bob still. I'm not seeing anything yet to make me move away from Boston Bob. Let's have a look at another one of the contenders here. One of the Northern Raiders in the race for Lucinda Russell. A horse who's unbeaten in 3 starts. We last saw him in winning form at Haydock in the Prestige, and we can see him winning here at Newcastle. And the key thing for me here with Brindisi Breeze, Andy, is the ground. All of his winning form so far has been on heavy ground, and he's been taking fields apart from the front on heavy ground.
Absolutely, and when the ground was absolutely desperate last time at Haydock, and when it's that desperate, you know, the 20-length margin or whatever it was, that can be exaggerated by the fact that the 2nd, 3rd and 4th may not have quite got home on the ground, and therefore it looks an awful lot better than it might be. He will no doubt continue to impress when he gets soft ground. His form on good ground, he was beaten by an 80-1 shot, wasn't he, at Musselburgh, and his only run on good ground. Now, that probably was as much to do with the track, the tight track, as the ground, but nevertheless, that's his form on good ground. The 80-1 shot went on to a similar race and finished 4th or 5th in that race. The form doesn't add up to anything at all. You'd have concerns there. And
to repeat those sort of tactics, always difficult. If you're going to go out from the front at Cheltenham on quicker ground, you're setting it up for a closer, whereas on heavy ground, around a galloping trot like Haydock, it's much easier.
And of course, again, Brindisi Breeze, we're on the Friday. If we don't get rain on the Friday, you wouldn't, you know, will he run? Would you want him to be running down the hill on fast ground?
Yeah, it can be more of a type to be maybe saved for entry on a...
He's an exciting horse to look forward to, but perhaps not for Cheltenham.
OK, so that's Brindisi Breeze. And just one more to look forward to. This is Bali Rock, who's got some very good form in the book. Here he is at Hereford, but last time out only a length behind Fingal Bay.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I'd be slightly dubious about the quality of that form in terms of... I'm not sure that the Fingal Bay that day was the Fingal Bay we'd seen previously. I think that was the day where was Double Ross in 3rd place.
Yeah, Double Ross was 3rd, and he's been beaten a country mile since in handicap company.
Yeah, I'm not convinced about that, you know, but you can understand why they're going for the race. I think there are stronger contenders.
Yeah, I'd completely agree. And Tim Vaughan's stable struggling for winners of late. So that's the Albert Bartlett selections.
I think we're going to agree here, Boston Bob.
Nice and simple. Boston Bob will win the Albert Bartlett.